Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning on the EDC Coffee Chat, Coffee with Colleen. We are really excited and honored to have the Superintendent of Clallam Bay Correctional Center join us, Jeri Boe. She has been with Clallam Bay for over 30 years, I believe. That's pretty impressive. And she's going to tell us all about the facility and the center. And, you know, we may not recognize that they're there and what they're doing, but it's an incredibly important role within not just our community, but for the state. And just some of the impacts of some of the different decisions, like the Blake decision. It's all very interesting from my perspective. And so just a few housekeeping items before we kick this off with Jeri. If you'll put yourself on mute so we don't unintentionally pick up some background noise. And if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, or you can put your question in the chat and we'll call on you. And with that, we'll let Jeri take it. So go ahead, Jeri. Thanks again.
Well, thanks, Colleen. I was pretty nervous. I don't generally do speaking engagements by any means, but being a resident my whole life of Clallam County, I recognize lots of faces on this call, so I feel at home. So thank you all for being interested. The work out here, it's quiet. When it's quiet, it means we're doing a good job. You don't hear about a lot of activity, and thankfully, I knock on wood, it's been quiet. We've not been in the news. And so on the other hand, when you don't know the work we do up here and the effects of the county, I feel it's important to get that news out there. And so just some basic information about Clallam Bay. We are a high-level major facility in the state. So Clallam Bay and Walla Walla share the same custody, high-level custody incarcerated offenders. And so we're pretty important in the scheme of housing guys. We're a full male facility. There's no females up here. Our capacity is 900, and we were averaging 2 years ago about 850. Today we have just our capacity is 401. Really need to get to 502 just for the legislature and staffing and such. And so it's a staffing issue, to be really 100% honest with you, which brings me to the conversations with Colleen about why I need staff. But I'll go into detail about the facility. We were built in.
Oh, we lost your volume there, Jeri. Huh. Let's see.
It is not working.
There now. Yes, now we can hear you. Great.
Okay. We opened in 1985 at a 450 bed medium facility, and at 91 we expanded and built 400 more beds for medium custody, and then the main facility became a closed custody, max custody, which is a much higher level, violent, younger group of men. And that's what we've been since 91. Our average age is about 32. It averages bumps between 29 and 35, but right today it's 32. We offer all kinds of programming. We partnership with the community college. Peninsula College offers quite a few classes up here. And just some of them are, of course, the adult education. We do a computer design, technology, computer technology class, professional baking, their GED is offered. And then we do some small business entrepreneurship, accounting classes. And then we're looking to expand maybe into some building classes, driving classes for, we're looking to expand classes through Peninsula College. We are offering chemical dependency, which is a much needed class. And then we have the facility itself is like a small city, right? So we have work for food service for the incarcerated, maintenance, rec assistants, groundskeepers, pretty much. I mean, I would compare myself to running a college, campus. We have housing, and we have all the needs of what that level of service is needed for a college campus, just a different group of individuals we're serving. So in the recent years, the state of Washington has focused on sustainable projects, and which included also upgrading our facility, right? So we've just upgraded recently, upgraded our boiler systems, which also included reducing our water and putting in energy efficient LED lighting, which has saved us an ungodly amount of money for our bill, our water bill, our electricity bill. And then we went from diesel to propane for our boilers, and that project is just completed. And that was a $17 million project. And we have a replacement of our fire alarm system at a $4 million cost. And then we've upgraded our security cameras. Believe it or not, security cameras throughout the facility wasn't, when we built in 83, wasn't a standard item that came into facilities across the state, to be honest with you. And so the upgrades of putting security cameras in so that, we can show video of, let's just say, an assault or some type of behavior is just now coming into the prison systems in Washington State. And so we've done one upgrade on that, and we still have other areas that we need to upgrade, but that was a $6 million upgrade. Just the infrastructure and the pathways that is needed for those cameras is intense.
So,
yeah,
Jeri, do I understand that you don't have camera systems like in your hallways and that kind of thing, or in the cafeteria? You don't currently.
We do currently, but we didn't.
You do.
Yeah, we
Okay.
we didn't have a complete system. I mean, there were spotty cameras here and there, but not in the living units. Not much of the facility. Yeah. So today we do, and that's affected us. Like we had a pretty major assault on a staff member that went to trial. Like, we have a very good relationship with the local prosecutor. He's always willing, which helps us, and that reduces if we are charging incarcerated for assaulting staff, which doesn't happen regularly, but when it does, we want to handle it, and because then it shows an example to the rest of the incarcerated that that's not, they can't just get away with it. And so we took one to court to trial, and the jury was like, "Where's the video?" And based off of not having video, it really did affect the case, and the jury decided that the incarcerated was found not guilty. So so then we also are working on some upgrades to our security systems, some slider doors and such. And then our medium building, which was completed in 91, is having some infrastructure issues as well. And so we're doing some upgrades out there. In the meantime, the Blake decision happens, COVID happens. And so I tend to ramble quite quickly. So if anybody has any questions about the facility itself, please feel free to ask. But so COVID happens, and of course sentences aren't, people aren't being charged, deferred, court systems are on pause. And then Blake happens, and what Blake decision is that simple possession is no longer found as a felony conviction. And so 40 of our guys here at Clallam Bay, and that was, we had 850 at the time, 40 go out the door just on that one decision. And then I believe about 150 other individuals here are affected. Their sentence structure changes. And why? Because if they had past simple possession charges in the state of Washington, you have a offender score in your criminal history. So when you're going to get sentenced, they look at your history, and if simple possession counted as points towards your sentence structure. So if you have no criminal history, you have a lesser sentence than you if you had a dozen. And so if you had simple possession, that was wiped off of your record, and then that adjusted your sentence score, in which time it reduced your sentence. And so 150 individuals at this facility had a reduced sentence score. And in the meantime, statewide, that affected statewide numbers. So then you throw COVID, COVID vaccine requirements, and I had 70 staff walk out the door because they weren't going to get vaccinated. And because there's room to move individuals, we closed down our medium unit of 400 beds.
So real quick on that point, so 70 staff left because of the vaccine requirement. Were the majority of them correctional officers?
Yeah.
And so local governments didn't necessarily mandate that so were these local people, and did they find work elsewhere as correctional officers?
Yeah, some of them, the local jail has several, PUD.
Okay.
Kevin Galassi has a few. Yeah, they were able to find work elsewhere, of course. Yeah. And so we have a reduced number of employees, and so we have to reduce our population to meet the employee numbers. So today I'm trying to pull more staff in, and so I guess my operating budget is $33 million, and we're a large employer in this county. So we have employees coming all the way from Sequim, a handful of them, as a matter of fact. It's over an hour and a half drive, Forks, Clallam Bay, Nia Bay. And if I'm going to reach out and try to get more staff here so that we can get to full capacity again, I need staff. And so when I start looking at opportunity for, let's just say people don't like an hour drive, people don't like an hour and a half drive, so they want to live in Clallam Bay. That's been interviewing, what can I get, what kind of housing opportunities are close by. There isn't any here in Clallam Bay. And looking at the town of Clallam Bay itself, it tends to, it's a beautiful area, but there's not much here any longer. No banks, no grocery stores. I mean, we have a little convenience store, and honestly, I believe, Clallam Bay is keeping that convenience store open. It's a beautiful restaurant. The Breakwater has a beautiful view, and in the summertime, it's booming with vacationers. But outside of that, it closes down. And so I'm just, reaching out and getting it, letting people know I have 40 positions I could hire today, and the base position officer makes $27 an hour. Is not a bad income for somebody with a GED or high school diploma and a Washington State driver's license. So,
Lena has a question for you, Jeri.
Yeah.
Lena?
Yeah, the vaccination mandate is still in place. The governor has just announced that he plans to enforce the booster as well in 2023. That's my next challenge.
Interesting, huh? So can you talk a little bit more about the classes that you offer there? Are they mandatory for the inmates? Is it different between the high security, medium, and what is the last open? And what does that look like? What does their day look like? And what do the facility grounds kind of look like?
Yeah. So yeah, they're required to have a full productive day. So if they're working, that's a full productive day. If they don't have a high school diploma or GED, that's their number one, depending on what age. Once you hit 45, it's 45, 50. We focus on, and we have a younger population here. So pretty much if you don't have your high school diploma or GED, that's the focus. They get their high school diploma or GED. And we get them in classes. It may take them 20 years to get it, but that's the focus. But outside of that, Peninsula College is very popular for those individuals that are looking to really make changes in their life. And I'm going to say we might have a violent population. Their sentence might be violent, but most of the men here is about 5% of the men that create all statewide that create the problems for all of us. And so most of them really do want to do something different than they've been doing in the past. And so
you mean 5% of the men in your population, not 5% of the men statewide, right?
in my
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you've got 400, you said around, okay. So about 80 then,
Yeah.
or no, 20.
About 25. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an accurate number. Yes.
Okay.
They can create quite a bit of havoc, but yeah.
And are they all in the high security prison area?
Well, so our facility at this point, all of them are what we call closed custody. And then we have 62 bed max custody facility. And those guys have been in a little bit of trouble and are like, like, let's just say, like jail. They're sitting out their discipline in our max custody until that sentence is complete, and then they can come back out and hopefully, change the behavior. Yeah, so 62, we have 62 men in what we call max custody.
Okay. Okay. Got it. I see Rebecca has a question. Rebecca?
No, they're not required. They're not required to be vaccinated. The facility itself, when I come to work, I wear a mask unless I'm in my office with the door closed. The facility, everybody in the facility has to wear masks, and they are encouraged to be vaccinated. Our percentage at one point, we had 75% of the population that was vaccinated, but men move, they release or they move. So I'm not sure what the number is today, but a large percentage of them did get vaccinated. Yeah.
Right. Dr. Maxwell has a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeri.
Hi, Mike.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah. And just curious, with the peak of the pandemic, did you have much infection rate out there amongst the incarcerated population? And sort of the corollary, how is your medical facilities for handling those issues and others that might arise? Yeah,
we do have a medical facility here, and it's not a 24/7 operation. So we have a doctor too that are here part-time. So we don't have a lot of the high-level medical needs here. They're housed at other facilities that are closer to a hospital. As far as the guys that we did have 2 outbreaks, which is surprising for me. And I think part of it is, we're at the end of the earth out here. And then our infrastructure is set up to where we're not like a congregate, like the standard, you see tiers and tiers and tiers of open, barred, like we have 3 pods in a unit, and each pod has about 50 men in it, or could house up to 50 men in it. And so they're separated. So what happens is there's not this huge interaction between the men on a regular basis, particularly if we have 1 or 2 individuals that we test all staff every week when we're not on outbreak. When we are on outbreak, it's much more than that. And then if we find any of the incarcerated positive, if they have symptoms, we test them. And if we have any of those incarcerated positive, then we test the whole unit every 3 days, and they're on what we call quarantine, and those individuals are positive or in isolation. So we were our infrastructure here was able to pretty much shut down a lot of interaction, where most facilities in the state don't have that ability to do that. That's what's unique about us, and it helped us a lot when it came to that. We've only had 2 thus far. The rate is rising in the county, and I'm not sure how we haven't seen.
Uh-oh, you went on mute again. Huh.
Am I here again?
There, now we can hear you again. Good, thank you.
So yeah, it's very impactful when we're on an outbreak. The men can't move, go anywhere, do anything, and then they get grumpy. A lot of work. I don't know if I answered both of your questions.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I was impressed that things were not worse than they were during the pandemic. So I was curious about how you had managed that so successfully. So
yeah, right now all the majors except for us right now are under outbreak status, and I mean we're all managing we have protocols. We're all managing it the same way, but all I can say is our infrastructure and our setup is different, and maybe that's why we haven't. Yeah.
I will say with your remaining employees, there perhaps won't be as much resistance to the booster since they've already gotten I assume if they're still there, they got the first round. So maybe fingers crossed that you won't have another walkout.
Yeah, I don't know. People are what happens is when someone's told to do something, they're less likely to do it. And so that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So I have a year out, so we'll see how that works.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I see that there's other hand. Susie.
Hi there.
Hi.
Jeri, I'm the new president of Peninsula College. It's nice to meet you. The college is thrilled to be able to provide education to your clients.
Yeah.
We know it's the #1 way where we're going to prevent them from coming back to see you.
Yes.
So this is the first time I've been at a college directly with corrections, but I've watched it in our system for 20 years. So remind me, wasn't there new legislation that now allows the inmates to earn an associate's degree?
Yeah, there is.
Can you talk about that? And we would love to be a part of that. And really, the GED is a perfect first start, but make that just the beginning to them actually getting a full-fledged credential and on their way out.
So Maria, the director up here for the college, has far more details in it. And I just actually a month ago learned about the opportunity, but the men are able to take college level classes, get in like through Peninsula College and AA, or I believe they can even go further in getting their bachelor's degree through other colleges. It's the requirement is similar to a college student, right? They have to be in class. They are a college student. They have to be in classes and in the classroom and meet the same requirements as any other college student would. The hardship for those men in this custody of population is they get in trouble, and if they get in trouble, they're not able to attend the class because they're in what we call max custody. So we'll have to work through some of that, the ability, because I certainly don't want the money put into classes and these men getting their degrees and then to have a 7-day break in the classroom and not being able to complete it. So there's some barriers, but I think we can work through that. But there's a lot of men here that will take advantage and come out the other side of that in a much better way. And that's our, when I started 30 years ago, it was about, protecting the community and, making sure our fences were strong and our, and our practices were good. And it's still that. But on the other side of it, really the goal of the facilities across the state is to reduce recidivism, right? Have not see the revolving door of men coming in. And if we do that well, it saves the money state. It makes a better neighbor. So that's the goal, is to make a better neighbor.
That's great. Well, the college is thrilled to be a partner with you in that.
Thank you, Susie.
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit about the process when an inmate is released and what that looks like? And how many of your inmates are there for really long sentences, and how many of them, get reduced or commuted sentences and paroled? And uh-oh, we lost you again. Huh.
There I go. Okay. I get a message and it shuts my mute off. Sorry. I wish I could not have a message hit. But so what happens is individuals come through, they get sentenced throughout the state, and they go through the reception center, which is at Shelton. And then from there, they get their sentence structure is determined, their sentences, their time is determined, and their custody level is determined based off of their history, how long their sentence is. And we generally will get men here that have longer sentences or that have already gotten in trouble while they were at Shelton. They've had a fight or had some bumps in the road. And so we will get those individuals. Most individuals that are housed here don't necessarily get released to Clallam County. They are from all over the state. We only would get individuals based off of their behavior and their sentence. And so, for instance, we could have a guy that is from Spokane County that the rule is they need to go back to their two rules. One is we look at their.
Uh-oh. Still on mute. It's still muted.
Here I am.
There we go.
Okay, so we look at where their support system is, and then they also need to, we look at their origin of their first conviction. So if they have support in their origin county where they first committed their first crime, they go back to that county. If they don't have any support there, then we look at other support options for them. So that's how guys get released. The second question, Colleen.
Well, and so when they're released is, you know, I assume the state doesn't say, here you go, dump them off at a bus station and you're on your own. I'm assuming there's some support services that are kind of set up for them, whether it's housing or work source job training, or, you know, trying to help them find something to get them going. What's offered to them?
If the judge ordered community custody, so supervision, if they ordered supervision, then we have community corrections officers in the communities in which they're released to that meet with them and, you know, would do UAs or make sure that they're also they're
UA?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. They have to check in.
Uh-oh. Still muted.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so they have supervision in the community, in which they have people that would check in on them, their house, make sure they're following their conditions of release. Some guys aren't ordered any of that, and in fact, we don't have any more jurisdiction once their sentence is complete. And so, yeah, once the date of their release date, we don't have any more. They get on a bus. We provide them transportation via a bus. But yes, some individuals that we consider high violent and dangerous, we physically will drive them to wherever the release is. If they're not considered dangerous and violent, then we will get them on public transportation to to where they're going, and they'll have to check in with their CCO their community corrections officer 24 hours upon release.
Okay. So how many of the prisoners there are serving a life sentence?
I think we had 25 when 36, and that 6 of them were serving a life sentence, which is considered 20 years, and the rest were considered, or we were looking at life without. And those sentences are, if they're a 3 strike, are being relooked at depending on the age in which their first strike was calculated. I mean, there's all kinds of different sentence changes going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that number's dropping quickly. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. What can you tell us about the women's prison over in the Forks area?
That is a camp, and that's a men's camp. But we do have a women's facility. The 2 female facilities are in Belfair, which is Mission Creek, and then we have the main women's facility in Purdy.
Okay, that's on 16 that says don't pick hitchhikers up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That, and I'm, you know, I've my whole career I've pretty much interacted with the male incarcerants, and the women kind of scare me. I've been through that facility a few times. Yeah. Women are, it's a great facility. It's just a different feel for sure. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So do you have problems with drugs infiltrating into your facility, and how does that happen, and how often does it happen?
So it's not only drugs, it's any, so, you know, tobacco is not allowed in here.
Huh.
You know, creatine, you know, any of the weightlifting stuff is not allowed in here. And so that would be considered contraband, but drugs in general are a huge issue, and it's bigger than ever. And what happens is the easiest method is through the mail. So what happens right now, we're finding meth paper, right? So you can liquefy methamphetamines, and then you dip the paper into it, and then you write on it, and then you mail it in, and the men will tear off the paper, put it in their mouth, and they get high. The same, we were seeing an uptick in what's called spice. So it's liquid THC. And it's really hard to catch that paper because it has, the compounds change on a regular basis. So any testing methods that we have for that kind of paper is very difficult to find. And so, but it's happening all the time. The meth paper is very easy to catch because the paper itself feels different. So it has a different look to it. And then you can have a tester that easily tests it. But the THC, the liquid THC on paper is harder to test and a little easier to get through our mechanisms in which we do that at the mailroom. And so what we're looking at statewide, it's a workload as well, but we have, the men here have, similarly to a cell phone, they have what's called a JPay tablet, and they can have messages, texts from their loved ones back and forth. And all that goes through somebody that reviews it all. Similar to the mail that comes through, we review it all. And so it reduces the paper piece and any contraband coming into the facility. It allows for a faster communication with their loved ones, which, you know, we encourage, as long as it's, you know, pro-social. And so they, we're encouraged, what we're thinking about is scanning all that mail instead of them getting the paper in the facility. We scan it all and they can read it on their JPay player. We're going through some, the AG's office to make sure that's all legitimate and legal. And that's what we're looking to, you know, sidestep some of those efforts to get drugs in. The others are, you know, we have visitation. We've started at visitation the end of last year again. And, you know, of course, there's those measures, you know, of course, staff could bring it in. We had a case just 2 years ago in which a staff member was caught and sentenced. And you can make make money bringing drugs into here. Cell phones are another problem statewide, but out here there's not a lot of cell service, so we don't necessarily have that problem out here yet. So yeah.
So do the inmates have cell phones then?
They
Or
don't.
no?
So their JPay players are. We control the Wi-Fi that's allowing any of that back and forth. It's shut down, and we check it on a regular basis. They have to sync it to our system, and you know, we can tell if they're trying to manipulate the device. Out here, there's not a lot of ability for other Wi-Fi options, but at other facilities there is, and so they check them on a regular basis. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, you know, this question comes from my experience based on the Orange is the New Black and movies I've seen, but do you guys have like a commissary and where they can shop? And, you know, I'm just curious of what the daily life would look like for the inmates there in Clallam Bay.
Yeah, so, you know, you start the morning off at about 8 o'clock. They go to what we call mainline, which is basically breakfast. And they, you know, due to COVID, it's a grab and go. So they grab their meal from the dining hall and they go back to their cell and eat it. And then after that breakfast is done, then they go for a 9 o'clock work call. And most of the guys who work in maintenance, education, recreation, any of the, you know, landscaping or any of the jobs in the normal day would then be go to work call. And then after that, then we have education call outs. different programming such as chemical dependency call outs, other classes that they would have to attend throughout the day. So it's, similarly to like, in the school, the bell rings and you go to a next class, right? It's like we have what we call gates, and guys are in controlled movements in that manner. We have a gym, that it's a nice gym, and a yard that has a track around it, and they have some, pickleball courts and that they can play outdoors if it's their day off, or if not, they're not working that during that rec, then they can go do those recreational type activities. And then other than that, if they don't want to go to the recreation or they don't have work, they can be in their cell, and many of them have TVs, and they hopefully are doing their homework or what have you,
So do all the inmates have TVs then?
Well, they purchase their own TVs, and family members will send them money for those televisions. Yeah, and I would say probably at least 75% of them have TVs. Yeah.
And so some of them don't, just because they don't have money?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As a person that likes TV shows and movies, and if
during COVID, if you were under isolation, I gave you a TV because I don't want them sitting in their cell with nothing to do but twiddling their thumbs.
Has there ever been a nonprofit that tried to support inmates that would provide them TVs?
No. We have nonprofits that do a lot, like books or other programming. I mean, there's a lot of the volunteers that used to come up here on a regular basis, obviously are coming back now, but we're slow during the 2 years of COVID. We didn't have any volunteers up here, but there's a nonprofit that will meet with the men and fellowship and give them cookies, that kind of thing, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And how about, so Rebecca had a question about what are some of the most popular programs, educational programs that they're taking?
Well, for a couple of years ago, we were working, we had what's called the Teach program. The men were, they were working with a nonprofit in the community, Fabian's Fund, over in Seattle Central College, and they were providing an actual, similar to where we're going right now. They were providing an opportunity for men who are interested in getting a college degree, and that was a very, there were men that were wanting in that class and those classes. I think these college opportunities are popular. Coming out of COVID, we're going to be slow. Like right now, we only have classes Tuesdays and Thursdays for the college. And I was just talking to Maria, our education director, yesterday about increasing those classes for the winter quarter once we get some staffing challenges accomplished and hopefully move forward with COVID behind us a bit. Hopefully we can start expanding those classes. And so I think just in general, the classes that they offer through the college are guys are interested in attending.
So does everyone there take classes?
No.
Okay.
No, and we don't have room for everybody to take classes.
Okay.
The average classroom is about 15 men in it. And so, but we only have so many instructors, teachers.
Yeah.
The baking class, no doubt, is of course the most popular. They can test their items and they share the product with the population, and it's well liked. WAGs, yeah. There's a question about, does the prison still do the WAGs dog training? And not right now. When the pandemic hit, the dogs had to go for a multitude of reasons, but there wasn't a lot of movement. They needed more exercise. The department felt like the dogs could pass the virus on. And so I haven't heard when when they can come back. Our medium building was where that program was housed at, and our closed custody higher custody level is harder for those dogs to get out to the yard. And so hopefully we can get some staffing and get that unit back open. And then when that happens, we'll have the program back. I'm positive of it.
So Sherry has her hand raised. Sherry?
Good morning. So I was wondering what the closure of textiles might mean for Clallam Bay because of losing a CI, CI shop like that is so devastating to our small community out here in Forks.
Yeah.
And there's buzzings that, lots of people I know work at Clallam Bay, and there's buzzings that they think that the prison's actually going to be closing. So if you could talk about those two things.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. It's unfortunate. We had a textile shop here that they just announced last month is closing. And we had, at the time, we had like 25 incarcerated working in that shop and a staff member, a CI employee. And so we're working with actually the college on that space. With what we were talking about, like the building, it's called CTAB, and I'm not sure, it's a building program for building, and then to learn building skills and such. That OCC, which is the camp, is going to move. It sounds like they likely will move that into that space, and then we'll also have room for another class. We're talking with Maria about what options the college would be interested in helping us with, and hopefully it's more towards job readiness type classes. Yeah. So if I could touch on the prison closing, no doubt it's concerning that we're down 400 individuals. No, there's no doubt about it. Feeling very confident that the need for this custody level is great. The individuals being sentenced currently are high violent individuals. They're not looking at the low level crime right now is sentencing. So most everybody coming into this system are closed custody. And so us in Walla Walla are seeing an uptick in that custody level. And that's why I'm so desperate to get staff, because I find that there was a study they do on capacity, and they were expecting, based off of what's sitting in the court system right now, waiting to be sentenced, looking forward, our prisons are going to be at we're going to be jammed up here if we don't open up more units. And I have units to open up. I just don't have the staff to staff them safely. And so I'm on a big hiring spree, but the barrier then becomes housing, right? And so with housing, if I don't have housing, people are like, well, if I can't live in, I don't want to live in Port Angeles, I want to live closer to the facility, it becomes a barrier for me.
Mm-hmm. So Chris has his hand raised. Chris?
Hi, Chris.
Yeah, Jeri, good to see you again.
Yeah.
Since you got a lot of employees shuttled in from Port Angeles and stuff, and with rising gas prices, is the state looking at providing your facility with electric or propane-fired vehicles so that you can continue that shuttle? And how has the gas prices affected your employment out there?
Yeah, great question. Well, they started, gosh, Kevin, I think 4 or 5 months ago, offering assistance with employees towards Clallam County Transit in the vans. So we've expanded our work with the vans that come out here. So virtually, I don't know, Kevin, it's like tripled in the amount of vans coming this way. We had a lot before COVID hit, and then COVID hit and it dwindled to nearly nothing, and we're back up to quite a few vans coming this way. As far as, so they commute, we all commute together in vans if it's coming from Squim or Port Angeles, even Forks as well. And then we hear the governor's order to electric cars. I have quite a few Priuses as far as my fleet. We're getting some charging stations out here for our fleet. And, you know, when we transport, we have a van that transports 14 incarcerants. I mean, that's a little bit difficult to get, you know, electric vehicle for that, but we are moving towards a lot of that. I see Kevin has information for me.
Yeah, I just like to add that we just recently lowered our rates for the van pool users to further subsidize it from this end. And then at the same time, the governor put out that $50 a month rebate, I think it is, for van pool users. So the majority of our van pool program goes to the prisons, to OCC or Clallam Bay. Another thing we're doing too, the RCW, you had to have 5 to have a van pool. That's been lowered to 3, and the program is really called Rideshare now. And so we're going to move a couple of our plug-in electric vehicles from shuttle vehicles to the van pool program and pilot that and see how that works. Hopefully Jeri will allow us to charge those during the day at the prison when they're out there. And so the program's been ramping back up again, but the difficulty right now is getting vehicles where we're racking up the mileage on them, and you just can't get any vans right now. And I'm really worried about that. So that we're going to have some really high mileage rigs out there. But anyway, I'm thinking it's going to continue to grow as long as we can keep the vehicles for you. So
yeah, it's been very popular. I've seen the staff morale increase. We also, you know, obviously we lose as many staff as we did. We have overtime that's, you know, was a little crazy for a while there. We're able to get some contracting trailers, and we remodeled them into what we call little sleeping pods. And so we have 4 sleeping pods that are made similarly to they're very comfortable, into a motel room with air conditioning and heat and a bed and a desk. So those guys that are having to commute to Swim and are stuck here to work in overtime with an 8-hour turnaround are able to sleep on site outside the perimeter and get a good night's sleep. So and
Share with them what you were saying about doubles, and then, you know, 2 doubles and then an 8-hour, that when you were really limited on staff.
So we, you know, Teamsters is the union up here, which is a strong union, which is good for the staff. But per the contract, the staff, I mean, if we're a 24/7 operation, you have so much staff that we have to meet per the RCW, per their security guidelines. And so if you have staff calling in or you don't have a replacement, those staff have to stay. And so they would be required to work a double, then they get a single, and then a double. And so
so you're saying 16 hours one day, then 8 hours off, 16 hours, 8 hours off, then an 8-hour day.
Yeah.
And then again, 16 and 16. Wow.
Yeah. Thankfully that we've
5-day period.
We've been able to we've been able to increase our staffing and to reduce that number. And then recently the Teamsters went through an MOU with the department. And so we've been able to only get, most staff are only doing an 8-hour overtime a week. And so it's really reduced here. Like, we're getting to a spot where we're looking really good. I just would like to open a unit up. So
yeah,
but overtime in general right now is way better than it was, for sure. But there was a few months that was just like zombies around here, for sure.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
No.
Or yeah. Huh. So is the limiting factor to expand the classes that you offer, is it facilities, instructors, money, or interest?
I would say I would say it's actually instructors. We have a large education area, and we have a time slot in which all those classrooms could have classes. It's just the instructors. So I know the CTAB program at outside of Forks at the camp, it hasn't been going for some time because they can't find an instructor to teach it. So they think if bringing it here, just an hour commute from Port Angeles, where potential instructors could be, might be an opportunity for for that class to, rejuvenate.
Mhm. So also share what the situation is right now with childcare.
Yeah, it's non-existent in Clallam Bay particularly. I know Forks is very minimal. They have two there, and it's a fight who you get on the list first. But in Clallam Bay, there is absolutely no childcare. The school had a pre-3, and I'm understanding that likely not be happening for this next school year. So any employees, that are living in the area have no opportunity for somebody to watch their children. And I particularly, my admin right now, she's working from home 75% of the time, which is an impact to me because she can't get childcare. She has a 3-year-old. I sent out a poll to my staff here, and if there were childcare opportunities, I could today, you would have 15, you probably there wouldn't be enough, and you'd have a couple different childcare opportunities in town to meet my need here at this facility. So I was told, several of my staff said, hey, my wife would come to work up here if we had childcare in Clallam Bay. So, I mean, it would provide not only a benefit to the facility, an ability to expand to where we need to be, the community itself. And when I think about, why there's not more opportunities, more services in Clallam Bay, what's the draw if you can't even find housing and you don't have childcare?
Yeah. So we are working with Jeri on that. We're going to try to help start up a childcare facility in Clallam Bay. So that area of our county that's considered a desert, childcare desert with no services will have one. And we've applied for some grant funding to help pay for that to be established. And we were just notified we were awarded the funding last week. So hopefully we'll be able to create some solutions for Jeri and the community out in Clallam Bay. So does anyone else have any questions of Jeri? All right, I'm not seeing any, and we're nearing 9 o'clock, 8:55. So I guess, I'm sure as soon as we stop this, I'll think of 12 more questions.
I can think of a dumb question, Colleen.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
So good morning. This is probably a silly question. So of course, we're always looking for people doing construction and that kind of thing, housing shortage. But I'm assuming because of the tools that contracting or labor, is it just out?
Well, so our guys don't leave the facility itself. They don't exit so we don't have crews that leave the facility to work. OCC would, the camp. However, I mean, if you're looking, I've thought about why couldn't the men here, build a tiny house inside or walls that could be then moved outside the facility and then constructed out there. Like we could do that work. I mean, there's all kinds of conversations about how we can help the communities with.
You just got a message.
Yeah, right. She's muted again.
Okay, I'm back. There's all kinds of opportunities for us. We have a large space that we could build walls or tiny homes or that kind of thing in. The men can't leave the facility to go put them together.
Yeah. What kind of, so many different industries, this was brought up by Pat, that they won't hire felons. So I assume everyone there in your facility is a felon, or would have that on their record. So what's a great path for them as they get out, where they could make a solid living and get an education while they're in, if they're interested and willing to do that?
We had a program through Peninsula College that was doing coding, and we've had several individuals leave making very good money, very, very good money. So there's, a felony conviction wouldn't affect that kind of work. I mean, you have a hard time getting a license in some worlds, right? In some business worlds, but construction work, even mechanics, right? My son's trying to get his car fixed, and it's hard to find a mechanic right now. And so, those kind of jobs. I mean, we have a plumbing apprenticeship inside here that our plumber, he works with the men throughout the day, and then after the day is over, he has a class that he's working through for plumbing apprenticeship. That kind of stuff. Those jobs that we need, particularly in the construction world right now, are really. I think the men could, and women have the same program at the women's facility. And
So, and how many of your inmates would you say have been diagnosed with a serious mental illness? That's, where they're being treated for that.
We have quite a few. I don't have the percentage. If it's not, I mean, I'm not an expert per se, but I would say a large percentage, 90% are chemically dependent. So some of it could be drug induced, or not. I mean, it could be who knows what mental state they were in before their sentence or their conviction. But there's a lot of men here that have had traumatic head injuries. We look at that a lot, and a lot go, what we call pill line, right? So they're on some type of medication to help them through the day. We certainly don't have the special offenders unit at Monroe has the high mentally ill individuals. So they're able to function quite well here, as long as they're on medication.
Got it. Ed has a comment. See, Ed says a number of your inmates have gotten jobs in the IT world after release. Did they have those skills before being incarcerated? No. That's cool. That's a success story. Yeah. So who hires them? Just any, it's just such a high demand field that they get hired by random IT companies.
There's a company, I don't.
Oh, on mute again. Well, it sounds like there's a company that specifically works to probably, I bet they do some placement and for anyway, inmates that are being released so that there isn't recidivism.
Yeah, there's a company, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't, it's not on the tip of my tongue at all. But they work with the instructor, was working with the instructor here at Clallam Bay, and they were able to get them hooked up with different companies in the community.
That's cool. Yeah. Okay, well, it's 9:01, so we hit the bewitching hour, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, Jeri. And we appreciate all you do, and please share with your staff and everyone. Thank you for, serving this critical role in not just our community, but our state. So
thanks, Colleen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You guys have a good day.
Enjoy the beautiful weather, everyone. Bye-bye.